Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Dan. And today, I'm doing one of these videos where I will discuss movies that were supposed to have been made, but for whatever reason, they weren't. Like I mentioned before, getting into the film industry is, of course, difficult, and once you land a job there somehow, even then, that doesn't necessarily mean you can get everything you want done. I mean, maybe with certain things you could get done eventually, maybe. Even this kind of a bit iffy, but point being, it's rather difficult. And one of these set projects is Godzilla 3, which was going to be released sometime during the 1990s. And it was going to be in the same continuity as the Godzilla Heisei series, which, of course, like I mentioned multiple times before, is my personal favorite Godzilla films, and it was going to act as if it was going to be a sequel to this other kaiju film, which I did discuss before, this one right here. But it was later, that Mothra movie was later reworked for another project, but that one also, just like the Mothra one I just showed you, was also not made. So, yeah. Yes, there was a plot that was actually thought up for this unmade film. So basically, what's going on, or I should say, what would have happened if it was made? The movie would have showed that Godzilla would have pretty much recovered from the effects of the anti-nuclear energy bacteria and would be returned to Japan. Of course, this would have been a clear reference to the film Godzilla vs. Biollante, and that one was actually made. But anyway, this was served as a way to continue the story in some sort of way. But okay. Meanwhile, however, humanity seems to begin to uncover the origins of this monster.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And this monster, of course, is an ancient monster that's been recently been defeated. Of course, referring to the other movie, obviously that was supposed to have been made. Of course, that other monster I'm referring to is this one, the agent monster, or whatever. In some ways, I feel bad for this character, folks, because this character was supposed to have been in so many Godzilla films and so many kaiju films, but for one reason or another, the project that he's in just didn't go through. The company Toho, which of course had made so many giant kaiju movies, had originally wanted to follow up with the film the one Mothra film with a connected Godzilla film in the following year in 1991. The film would have continued to explore the origins of that one monster while continuing where Godzilla vs. Biollante left off. This was the second entry of this series of films that's supposed to be interconnecting Godzilla and Mothra films, which actually would have been interesting if they actually had fallen through. But eventually, the thing is that they spoke about this in the pitch meeting between the two monsters. However, the idea was eventually cancelled with the one Mothra film along with it, I just mentioned a moment ago. This was due to the fact that disappointing box office returns of the one Godzilla film I mentioned, Godzilla vs. Biollante, which raised concerns about Mothra's ability to carry on a film herself. So yeah, they were worried about the fact, in some ways, if Mothra would be able to continue or have her own series of films or a solo movie. No, despite the fact that Mothra eventually got her own trilogy. So yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but okay, whatever. Anyway, as I was saying, so yeah, this project was basically cancelled because they didn't really have any faith in it, really. Which in some ways kind of bothers me because this would have introduced a brand new monster into these films. If there's something I did criticize Toho and Godzilla films, it would be that while they did introduce some new monsters here and there, that is true. However, I did get annoyed with the fact that they keep recycling the same monsters over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. So, also that's also kind of why I got a bit annoyed with the new Godzilla films as well. Yes, of course, I'm referring to the Godzilla King of the Monsters, and they're going to make a sequel to this called King Kong vs. Godzilla. which they wouldn't have a movie with these characters. They keep bringing up characters from the past and just keep reusing them. Which gets on my nerves because keep recycling them. Why can't we have new beasts for them to fight off? So if anybody's going to ruin the franchise, it would be them. And Toho, the legendary pictures on Toho, because they keep bringing up the characters from long ago over and over again. So you do need to bring in fresh air to keep this franchise alive. I mean, okay, there has to be more to this than just bringing in new monsters, of course, obviously. You need to have a good story, good characters, and all that stuff. I get that, but still, it makes me wonder what could have been if they like flushed the story out a bit more with the characters. I'm not too sure on who's going to be the main character in this movie. If anything, I'm pretty sure he's going to have a few returning characters, probably, and with the introduction of other characters as well. So, how it would have played out exactly, I'm not quite too sure. But you can always guess that, of course, there's going to be lots of destruction scenes, lots of fighting, of course, and lots of destruction and what, like the typical kaiju stuff you might expect from these films. That's going to be in it, of course, but you could try to make the story seem interesting at least, and somehow. I don't know. But yeah, folks, it kind of sucks that this wasn't made because I would like to see how it would have turned out. Like the one monster I just mentioned earlier, like I said a moment ago, is that I can feel bad for the character because he was supposed to have been in multiple kaiju films, but for one reason or another, it just wasn't made. He gets tossed around quite often. It's, oh boy, that poor character. I mean, people know of him, the fan base knows of him, but they never really officially made a film with that character. But yeah, it was decided not to do this because of the fact that they didn't really have any faith in this material, of course. But yeah, this was pretty much dropped, of course. But anyway, of course, they pretty much dropped this idea with the unused character and considered bringing back another monster, of course. During the 1990s, they wanted to do another version of King of Godzilla, which was never made, and now Legendary Pictures are doing their own version of the story, which, I have to say, it's pretty. And unfortunately, like I was saying a moment ago, they just keep recycling the same thing, the same monsters. Okay, maybe the story might be different. Sure, the story might be different from before, but points still stand. They keep using the same story, the same kind of monsters, finding out about, even though the story itself might be different. But still, folks, this just gets rather annoying, if you ask me, because it makes it seem that the company, okay, in this case, both companies, might be getting cold feet, and just like they're just too scared to experiment or whatnot. So it's just unfortunate that they didn't really do this, folks, because I would have actually liked to see if this was actually made, because, like I said before, one of my personal eras of Godzilla would be the Heisei series, because they do come off like they were the more fancier films to some extent, because they have bigger budget, more of a tighter script, better acting, actually fairly decent special effects at the considered time is made. So yeah, they were taking more serious and whatnot. So this was actually pretty cool that they had more ideas for these films that were supposed to be released during the 1990s, but were dismissed and just placed to a side and just not being thought about again. So anyway, this film, this project was dropped in favor for another film, and that one being Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. That film was actually made, and yes, of course, it was a box office success. It just follows proves my point. They want to stick with the familiar just so you can have lots of money in return. I mean, again, not that I'm trying to complain about the fact that they want to make money and whatnot. I'm not against making money, don't get me wrong, but in some ways, it feels like they're clouding their own judgment when it comes to creativity. Just comes though that's the only thing they want. Just make money. And that's it, so come on. You could always bring up the fact that Japan is having a stagnant comedy. I mean, it's not doing all that bad, I guess, but It's not doing all that great either. I mean, sure, this was back in the 90s, sure, but I'm just saying. Yeah, but even then, it's kind of wobbly, I guess. Goes kind of going back and forth of good and bad. But yeah, a new year is coming in, and they're still having that very problem. So yeah, doing this kind of stuff isn't exactly helping, really, like at all. It's just unfortunate that this thing is still a thing, unfortunately. So yeah, I guess you would say is that if there's anybody that could ruin their own franchise, it would be them that would do that. It could be possibly just them who ruin a possibly a really good thing. It just unfortunately that they didn't. This was made, and of course, really wish they could have because it sounds like something that could have actually been really good, but it wasn't made at all. So there's no way of me knowing, of course. I mean, okay, the story itself, I can't really say too much of the story because I guess there's not a whole lot that could actually, go on, I guess. It's like, it was just a proposal, if anything, I guess. But, yeah, this could have been something worthwhile. I don't know, probably. But, anyway, I just hope that maybe one of these days they could revisit this movie and actually make it. I don't know if they actually would. I don't know, but it seems this could be a way of stagnation maybe within the franchise because they keep bringing the same characters. Maybe not the story itself, but that's being reused, but the same monsters keeps being reused. And for the story that you would use, and sometimes it's rather generic, even if they don't remake anything. The story itself could still seem rather generic anyway. So a bit of a bummer right there because you think the script writers were trying to come up with some sort of brand new idea, with brand new characters. And this is a long franchise, so you think that they would have come up with something fresh and new, I guess you can say, somehow. But yeah, really wish they could have done it. And it seems that they could have actually done it right, if of course, if it's successful in a lot of ways. But there's no way of me annoying because, like I said, they didn't do it. Didn't do it. It seems it could have worked. Maybe the script, maybe the story needs a little bit. Okay, maybe the story needs a little work, maybe, but still. Like you said with almost any movie, when it goes through the process of making a movie, you do have to rewrite the script anyway, so you do have to keep in mind. So even if they had to tweak it up, that's perfectly fine. So I do wish that they could have actually had done this kind of thing. Of course, believe it or not, the Godzilla franchise had held the record of being the lengthiest film franchise of all time. So beating out movies like Star Trek, James Bond, yes, even Star Wars, the DC movies, the Batman movies, you name it, making it much longer than any of those. Yeah, with that in mind, you'd think they would try to find various storylines could use to keep these films entertaining, keep it fresh. I mean, you could if you actually plan things out well. So, this even made more movies than the Dragon Ball animated movies. So, I think they made nearly 20 of them at this point. They'll make more than Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, Pinhead from the Hellraiser movies, or even Texas Chainsaw Massacre films. They made more than them. So you think, like I said, they could have come up with some interesting ideas to keep people's interest in this franchise, so it won't come off too boring. Really, I don't know. Also, it would be a nice touch if they just stop also pressing the restart button. And of course, I know some of these films would just ignore a lot of these other entries and just pay attention to the first film, while others just start its own story. Whatever. As always, thanks for watching and take care.